Mm. Oh, yeah. I like it every time. I hope you do, because it's kind of here to stay, at least for now. Oh, yeah. Uh. What is up, y'all, and welcome to... I can't help it. I just really like hearing the song. I gotta interrupt myself. All right, y'all, for real. Welcome, everybody, to the I Speak Good podcast. This is episode 3. My name is Dump Truck. I am your host. I tend to talk too much. That is why this podcast is a real thing. And I'm very excited for today. Number one, I'm just having a really good time producing this podcast. I'm getting to sit down with some people I really love and respect and want to know more about. So the journey for me is super real, and it's simply getting to know people I like a lot better. And today is no different. I've got Chef Justin Warner is going to be joining me here in just a few minutes. You may have seen him on the Food Network, currently on Tournament of Champions on the Food Network, and he also has 3 cookbooks under his belt. He's a business owner, restaurant owner, father, so many things. And that's going to be a really fun conversation. He is one of my favorite people to converse with. So it should be thick. It should be really good. But to start things off, give you a rundown on the show. Going to talk about stuff and things that have been going on in my life. Then we're going to get Justin on the line. And per usual, we're going to close things out with the hotline. And if this is your first time, you can actually be a part of the I Speak Good podcast. Give us a call at 833-474-2010, and you just leave a voicemail, whether it's a hey, I dig your show, or if you're checking in from an event that you're at and you're just having a blast and you want to say so, or if you have a question or a topic that you'd like us to talk about, maybe someone you think I should interview. It's all on the table. Make your opinion known. Let your voice be heard. 833-474-2010. That's how we're going to round things out. So, what's going on in the world today? Well, this week for me is Mama Tried Show week, and I'm super, super pumped. If you don't know, Mama Tried Show is one of the, it's my favorite event of the year and has been for a while. It is this combination of family and custom motorcycles that's unique to itself, especially because it's in Milwaukee in February, which isn't known for riding season. So just the fact that the reunion is so great every single time, and it's not even about riding motorcycles, it's about the love of motorcycles. I think that makes it even better. And I get to MC that show. This will be my 3rd year doing it. I'm really, really excited for it. For me, it's a big responsibility because I respect that program and I respect the folks that run it. And and tips to toenails. It is just a really, really, really good freaking time. The show is great. The city loves us. Milwaukee loves the motorcycle community. And of course, it's partially because that's where Harley Davidson started and currently is. And we get to take advantage of those good vibes because everywhere you go, people are super stoked to see you. They want you to have a good time. They're excited that the motorcycle people are in their motorcycle city, and their city has a lot to offer. Food, cool people, music there is awesome. The architecture is beautiful. There's a river that runs through it. There's so much good that comes from Milwaukee, and I've been blessed to be a part of that community for a super long time, starting in, I guess that was probably 2012. So yeah, it's been 12 years or so. And so much so that Elwood's Liquor and Tap, my friend Nate's establishment, throws me a going away party every time I come to town. So on Saturday night, we'll have a really rad party at Elwood's Liquor and Tap, downtown Milwaukee. Come hang out. It's a really silly good time. Got some great sponsors for the show, some silly activities, and I'm going to give away some Simpsons stuff, going to give away some Hot Bike Magazine stuff, going to give away other people's stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, I'm on a high. Once I'm done with this podcast, then it's time for me to start packing and getting ready for my flight on Thursday. And then there's 3 days of shenanigans slash awesome. Well, I guess that's the same thing. It's just so good, y'all. Okay, anyways. So that's what's going to be going on for me. And that's going to be the last event that I do for a while. I don't plan to go to Daytona Bike Week. I think the next thing on my calendar is really the Tennessee Motorcycle Music Revival at Loretta Lynn's Ranch. In, I believe that's Hurricane Valley, Tennessee. If you've never been to that, it's a really awesome, like, grassroots, down home chopper party for the most part. It's a killer vibe. And there's music everywhere, which is one of the big reasons why I go. So yeah, there's that. And we're not here to really talk about me. We're here to talk with the folks that are a part of my life. And today I'm really stoked that is my buddy Chef Justin Warner. And this is the meat of it. This is one of my favorite things about this show is I've basically set myself up to hang out with people I like and give them 20 questions. So without further ado, my good friend, as of recent, Mr. Chef Justin Warner. What is up, my friend?
Well, Dump Truck, it's an honor. I'm excited really just to hang out without having, the roaring thunder of hundreds of thousands of motorcycles, or the pressure to make merry. We can be as real as we want right now.
That's the whole point, right? Is just it's just to be the people that we think we are. Um, and to give a point of reference there for people listening or viewing or both, Justin and I know each other because he is a business owner in Rapid City, South Dakota. You've got two awesome restaurants there, some of the best ramen I've ever had. I'm not going to get the named wrong. What are the name of the two restaurants?
Boca Joe and BB's, Boca Joe Ramen and BB's Natural Wine Bar.
Could you? Yeah, that's the doings. I mean, it's always on our list when we go up to Sturgis for the motorcycle rally, and it is nuts up there. And you know better than most being a resident because you see the change that happens every single year. But we'll get to some motorcycle stuff here in a minute because it's interesting how we are connected to the cast of characters that are our friend groups. Like, you're a diverse human being, I'm a diverse human being, and there's always there's a common denominator there that ends up tying people together. And it's always really cool to kind of discover where that is. For you and I was Mr. Alex Massa, an extremely talented trumpet player who is also a local in Rapid City. And he and I were beautiful friends starting down in New Orleans. He went back home and we go to visit him, which means we go to visit you now.
It's
And
really true.
and it's really cool to see you guys become tight friends. You're casting lines in the water. We're definitely going to hit up on that. And it looks like you really enjoy South Dakota.
Oh man, absolutely, dude. It's -20. Well, it was this morning. I think it climbed up to -8.
Balmy.
Um, Balmy indeed. I'm just sitting in an office right now in my restaurants, and I love it, man. I'm covered in dog hair because my dogs have been inside, and I don't know. I enjoy it. There's something about it. The harshness of the winter, the beauty of the summers, the earnesty of the people. I don't know, man. I used to visit Deadwood, which is right up the road when I was a kid. People who
Yeah.
aren't familiar, it's the town that the HBO show was based off of. And
Apparently it's lightning in here.
yeah, maybe it's cursed. Like, don't say Deadwood 3 times.
All right, we'll see if that continues. If it does, we might have to take a lighting break.
All good. So yeah, when I would visit it living in Colorado, I was like, man, that's the great porch I'm gonna crawl under to die. And there's just always something
Totally not
that
morbid at all. Like, that's totally fine.
nah, but I was just like, this is gonna be on my terms, and
Yeah,
if it's gonna be on my terms, it's gonna be in Deadwood. And so
I'm
now
here
I'm
for
just
that.
like, a 45-minute jaunt from my eventual resting place.
If you dream it, you can make it happen.
Trust me, it's only 45 minutes away. Of course I can make it happen. That's the problem with
Don't
that
push
city.
me, dump truck. I've got things to do. So, what were winters like when you grew up? Where was that?
I grew up in Maryland, Western Maryland,
So you're
which
used
is
to real winter then, like annoyingly shutter your windows indoors winters.
yeah. So yeah, I'm familiar, but we never had like -20 with -8 as the high.
Right.
it would be like, it's 18 and we got a lot of snow, but it was never anything
Because that's
like,
manageable. I mean, and it sounds extreme, but it is very manageable because you're still in the pluses. Like
yes,
once
yes,
you
yes.
start getting in the negatives, that's when,
Yeah,
especially for an extended period of time.
when there's a deficit of degrees, when we're in the red, uh, thermally, it's generally like more and more and more of a warning sign that you will perish quickly.
Yeah.
So, there's this thing though
And that's a
about
real reality too,
it's it's
to be
true.
redundant.
The air now is crisp and dry, and you walk outside, and if you take a big inhale, it's like full body wasabi. And I live for that. I live for that shudder. And the neon lights of downtown still work, and there are just less people walking into them, and like there's just something about that, like, persistence of, yeah, it's -20, but we're still at the office recording a podcast. Damn it.
I love it. Your dedication, regardless of your own personal safety, is fantastic.
Anything for you, man.
So I started this whole thing off because I used to be a radio DJ when I first started talking too much professionally. And I just love that aspect of it. So I started my story in episode 1 with like, how did I get here? Meaning, first professional gig, not I was born here, but first professional gig and where that accidentally ended up to be to where I am now. So like, let's start with this question. How did you get here? What was your first professional moment in the food industry?
Man, wow. So I think, man, like maybe the radioactive spider. I started busting tables. I've always been like a little bit of a hustler, and I've always liked money because I've always liked things.
Yeah,
And
right.
capitalism.
You're in the right
And
place.
it's true. And so I started busting tables, and I would work my ass off, and I just realized that it was better to not have servers mad at me for being a buffoon or being 15, than it was to just do the job and have the servers like me, because they were adults, and adults generally have a lot more power, and ability to give you money and things than, say, your colleagues who are all 15, 16, 17. So one night I was bussing a table, and just being polite to the guests, and this lady, I'll never forget her face, man. This was in the early no, this was in the late 90s. She had very much like a like late 80s album cover hair. Still really rock that hairspray every
Yeah.
morning. It was a
Oh, Aquanet
routine.
action strong.
Yeah, and she said, "What would make you happy?" And I said, "I don't know, $76.23." She's like, "Well, what would you do with that?" And I said, "Well, I've been eyeing some cargo pants that will let me bust tables better." Because like I was working in this pub where like the more you could carry, the better. So I would just like
Right.
look like this human trash child.
It's like, wait, they make actual pants for this.
Yes, cargo pants. And I was like, that's what they're for, right? Is for
It's
doing
in
my
the
job.
name.
Yeah. So I just like be loading up like spent beer bottles with ashes in them because people could smoke back then. But lo and behold, on the credit card receipt, and this is back when they were, you had to
Oh, yeah.
manually. When I say manually do it, that doesn't mean punching the number. It means you had to use a carb. Kids don't even know what carbon copy is anymore.
No,
Kids, it was basically a form of sculpture. You had to essentially etch numbers from the physical imprint of the credit card. That's back when credit cards were stamped and was also a form of sculpture. Christ, what a wormhole. So she
Yeah,
wrote on the
it's a
receipt,
it's a deep one.
yeah,
You
seventy
can
six
actually still
dollars.
take people's money back then, even when the power went out.
It's I know what no
Right?
internet.
No internet available. Like you can still take people's money. Well, how times have changed. But she
So the
wrote on the
chick,
receipt what you're saying.
$76.23 for Justin the busboy, and the waitress was pissed. The other busboys were pissed. The owner was like, "Wait a minute, like that's 3 tables worth of money, back then, and it's going to the busboy. What is this?"
What is happening?
Yeah, and I was just like, "I don't know, guys. She just asked, and I'm young and I sure could use it. And everyone was like, all right, fine, kid. So this was like a hell of a payday, man. I was getting $20 in the birthday card, once a year. So to get what 3.5 times that and the 23 cents, I was
Without
like,
aging.
yeah, this is it. This is it. So I think from there, man, and I haven't thought about that in a long time. That was the first moment where I think I professionally impressed and was professionally and handsomely at that time rewarded. And from there, I was like, well, if I can do it once, I can do it again. So I just kept trying to chase restaurants and check averages and foods that were more and more expensive. And then I
King of the
discovered, whoa,
upsale.
yeah, I can also love food. Food was just like this byproduct, this thing I cleaned up or
Right.
eventually served to people. But when then I realized, well, if I really want to make money and really be professional, I should love the product I'm selling. Holy shit. But you also, I think there are a lot of people in sales that don't love the product they're selling.
Yeah, there are absolutely. They're just grinding it out.
Yeah, so to get that at like 19, man, that was a big deal. Sorry,
That's
long
really
answer to a
cool.
short question.
No, well, you happen to be on a podcast, so get long-winded, baby.
You know it.
That leads like immediately into my next question. So, when did you? So, like for me, like when I first got my radio gig, my very first professional gig, I had no idea that it was like a thing. It took a long time for that light bulb to go off and go, oh, this is your path, man. Like, so how long until that aha moment came to where you realized you got beyond like the service side of it and started to get into, I mean, the entire monster of things? Because when you're a chef, it's not just, hey, I can keep people in line on in the back of the house and make sure the food comes out right. Like, no, there's business acumen that's involved, and you have to have a certain amount of marketing knowledge, and then there's the artistry of it all and making sense of it. And then if you're going to go global, it's like, I mean, it's a wild it's just a crazy graph that's in my head. It's so much. So when did you have that moment? There had to be an experience or a relationship that was made to where you went, I can do this on a real level.
Well, now that you mention all those other things, I don't know that I've gotten there yet. Because there's still a lot of things that I suck at.
Well,
In
good.
terms of,
I mean, if you're good at everything, I would resent the hell out of you.
well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, boy, am I fallible. I play a lot of video games. I don't know if you've ever played a role-playing game, but oftentimes there's what's called a skill tree. It's a path of progression as you get
Yes.
better and better with the character. There are certain places in the overall restaurant skill tree that I have neglected. Finances definitely being one of them. Just I hate. I love money so much that I hate thinking about it. This is kind of my woo woo is that like I've never had like a huge. My dad didn't leave me a real estate company. Like I've just never had
Right.
like a massive infusion that I didn't have some hand in myself. So I just have this like thing where I'm like, uh, yes, I don't study that because I attract that. Therefore, I don't need to study that. So I'm still learning a lot every day, and every time there's a problem with something, I try and figure things out better. But when I started working at the Modern in New York, which is in MoMA, I started as a glorified busboy, down from a waiter previously, and that place was so holistic in its training. They had what they called empathy trails, which is where you would kind of shadow everybody else's job so that you could see like what they're up to and understand that everyone is working, and while work might not be the same work and your work might be backbreaking for you, it might be mind breaking for them or soul numbing for the next guy, or just plain annoying for the woman at the front desk. And that's where I think it clicked, where I was like, oh man, like you really can't be isolated and just good at one thing. And if we're gonna get real nerdy about it, I always said
Let's
like,
do it.
okay, like so you've got your role playing game, right? And
Right.
you can start out with one of three job classes:
Got it.
mage, thief, or warrior.
All right.
Okay, warrior is kitchen, thief is bartender, mage is server.
Got it.
And so I was like, oh man, I've only been studying mage thus far. This sucks. Like I can only like do like lights and magic. Like I can't gut a guy through his back, and I also can't just like
And
swat
everyone
down
needs
and
to know how to do that.
yeah, and I also can't like swat down an oncoming rush. This sucks, like I can target one thing at a time. Boo. So then I was like, okay, like I need to study more of this. I need to learn from each of these other skill trees and like learn how to wield an axe and learn how to handle a shiv and it can't always be magic. Sometimes people are resistant.
Right? No, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Thanks.
Um, so when did you start to go to the next skill set that you were wanting to look into that you thought was going to take you wherever it was you were going to go, knowingly or not?
Well, I might have used too much magic one time, and I kind of half drunkenly applied for a food TV show, a cooking competition show.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, somehow we got on the show, and so I was like, they were like, "Well, you have to cook," and I was like, "Well, how hard could it be?" And they were like, "Wow, you're a jerk," and I said, "Perfect for TV." And they were like, maybe. So I just studied my ass off, and I just like learned how to swing that blade. And where I couldn't swing the blade, I learned how to use magic. And so minimal bladery, little bit of magic, and then after that, I actually look at a bartender and the thief as like the person that can do a little bit of both, but nobody ever feels like they've been punished. That's the thing about the thief is that like you don't know you've been had, and like bartenders, like their job is to have you, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
to pay a lot, to leave happy, and to feel as though you didn't pay a lot and that everything is okay in the world. Like that's like an emotional robber,
Yeah, it's like
the
it's the velvet glove of the entire establishment.
yeah. So then from there, I just started studying and learning from great bartenders. I can make a decent cocktail, but it's not about the cocktail, man. It's about the manner of how you're going to behave when you're trapped and have things to do. When you're a server, you can leave, you can go to your station. But when you're a bartender, you're always on that stage,
Oh yeah.
and your every mistake is broadcast. Your every choice of words means something. It's crazy,
Well, everyone's
I
hanging on. They're hanging on your words because, like, the level of bartending that you're speaking of is much more of what people would probably call a mixologist. This is there a better term for that, or is
no,
that kind of
no,
on the nose? I mean,
yeah.
it's. I mean, you're a chef with liquids. I mean, down to the garnish. And so people are. I mean, they are watching every move. They're interested. You're supposed to be the tip top. This is a $35 cocktail. I'm watching what you're doing, dog, and I feel that. So you can't escape. So like, what's your solution there?
Be the best you can be. And my dad was a psychologist, so try and size people up and look at their cues and figure out what they need, and bludgeon them with happiness as best you can. And like after two cocktails, maybe somebody is in need of a therapist. Like
Right.
part of the job description, but you also have to have like safe boundaries and make sure you don't do or say anything that is going to cause any grief for anybody involved, so yourself included.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just part of the dance, man, and like that's why it's all worth it. And what I love about tips is you could give somebody literally life-altering advice that changes their path forever. And they could still be a person who just doesn't tip.
Yeah.
you, you know?
Drinking from the fountain, but not helping keep it run.
Yeah, and like I kind of like that. Like I like the luck aspect of hospitality and tips. People would always, when I was a restaurant manager, people would gripe about tips, and I've now incorporated this into my like opening, welcome to the restaurant, join the team. If you complain about tips, well, don't play the lottery. It's like a scratch off, except you can influence the odds. If you look
Right.
on the
Yeah.
back of a scratch off, it tells you the odds. Nothing you can do about it. But when you're waiting tables, you can influence the odds. The better you are, the better the odds are someone will reward you for that. But still, every now and then you might be the best you can be, and you open it up, and well, ho hum, they wrote, "You suck, get a real job."
There's a lesson of acceptance in there, right? Like you
Yeah,
said, yes, I would like this job. Understand what comes with that and accept it and work it, right? Don't just be like, oh, sometimes it sucks. Be like, cool, sometimes it's gonna suck. Noted. So to not care as much, I should kick ass at my job in front of every guest and customer that comes through here so that it only sucks once and that doesn't ruin anything.
Oh my gosh, the best tips are to me is from the table adjacent to the person who clearly is not going to tip or tip well and is a huge pain. That's my favorite, man. When I get somebody that needs to be bludgeoned with hospitality,
Yes, of
um,
course.
boy, I'll just project. I'll turn that volume up, just like maybe move my chin up a little bit so I'm not talking into their table. I'm talking just a hair towards that table next to them.
Oh, yeah, just over the
Absolutely,
shoulder.
certainly we can accommodate that, madam. Like
How else may I help you enjoy your experience while you're here?
I enjoy that. I don't know, but I'm a little bit of a masochist, I guess. Anyway, another long answer.
And we're on a roll. One of the other things that is a part of your learning environment is the warrior path, right? So getting to the war zone, and if you have never, number one, everyone should work in the restaurant business at some point in their life, service industry on some aspect, almost specifically restaurants, though, at that serve food, not just a bar. It's you, you gain so many lessons so quickly at an appropriate age, 18-ish somewhere when you're finally in the game. But
I
like
think it
once you
should be
get to the back of the
conscription.
house, say again.
I think it should be conscription.
Absolutely, and absolutely, you should have to go to shop class, and you should have to learn
Yes.
how to work in a restaurant.
All the above. Dump truck for
Yeah,
president, everybody. It starts here, it starts now.
that's right. Where's your hammer? Hold that plate. What kind of restaurant is this? Uh, but yeah, so it's working in a kitchen. I worked in a few. The most fun I ever had in the most professional environment was Steuben's in Denver, Colorado, which has actually been on one. I can't remember which one it is. Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives. Actually,
Dude, I've been to Steuben's. I love Steuben's. It was on
no way.
17th, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
17th, man. Yeah, dude, I was kind of crashing at some pads down there and dude, Steuben's especially, I think I was there when it was like hot when it had first opened.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, man, Steuben's was like a life-altering experience in uh professionality yet conviviality. Low stakes, high result dining. And it was just dope, dude.
I'm
Congrats,
stoked that
man.
you remember that. Thanks. It was awesome. I was given a great opportunity there. One that again I did not realize was an opportunity because Sean Kenyon at that time was the manager of the bar program there. And he at Tales of the Cocktails a few years ago was awarded the top, I believe it's either bartender or new restaurant, and like massive accolades. And way before that, I was just like, whoa, I was actually given an opportunity to get out of the dive bars, which is what was happening at that time for me, and get into the real professional, like respected side of the service industry. And I had no idea. I was still trying to learn how to wake up at a normal time in the morning because this daytime thing, I was a vampire for so long. And like when I took that job, I was like, bro, this is gonna sound like bullshit. I'm like, but I am changing my entire lifestyle here. If you will give me 4 weeks to get used to waking up in the morning, going to bed at night, I really want this opportunity. And they just looked at me like, are you serious? And luckily, I knew them really well already, which is how I got the opportunity in the first place. But they did give me some time, and I was very grateful for it. But so much talent in that building and so much dedication. There are people that have been in the service in that building almost since it's open for like well over a decade. And it's just impressive. It's just really impressive. But anyways, I got to work in all that to say, I got to work in the kitchen. And whenever you start, Expo was one of the things that everyone learns how to do. It gives you real perspective. And man, is that a warpath. Like you are in the middle of it. It sounds like people don't like each other when in fact they respect the hell out of one another. It's just the way you communicate is super intense, totally adverse to the front of the house where everything is gentle and positive. Back there, it's quick now and you're already too late. And like, so when did you get the shot at that title?
When I opened my restaurant, that was kind of nuts.
Really?
We didn't have any money to hire anybody, but I'd been working alongside some of the best in the best in a Michelin starred restaurant, so I just opened my eyes to what everybody was doing, and those empathy trails were great. And as a server, man, not saying I would get bored, and I wasn't a server, I was a captain, big difference. And
For sure.
as a captain, I would get a little bit bored, and so sometimes I'd be like, cool, I'll run food, or cool, I'll grab garnishes for my drinks, or cool, I'll go to the maitre d' stand and take my esteemed guest to their table. I just wanted to, like, I don't know, be entertained. That's a problem with
Yeah.
me. Is like I'm not saying I get bored quickly. I have like about a 5 year boredom thing. Like it takes me about 5 years of the same thing to get bored. So once I hit 5 years there, I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna just start. If my section goes to hell, like then my people, I haven't trained my people well enough. So anyway, I opened this restaurant with my friends, and it started out pretty chill, and I was like, not chilling, like this is too chill. And so I started flirting around uh with various publications like the New York Times and said, hey, like, we come from this pedigree and we just opened up this restaurant in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Maybe it's worth checking out. And they're like, do you really think this is how you solicit the New York Times? And I was like, well,
It
times
is
are changing.
today.
It is, yeah. And you responded. And so sure enough, like New York Times came, and then all the shit hit the fan in all the right ways. We just rose to the occasion. And I guess one knack of like being not formally trained and very hands-on in all aspects of hospitality is that I think they're kind of like there are people who, when they are in the weeds, uh, focus on being in the weeds,
Yeah, it's a
and
negative thing, right?
yes, and they aren't taking a note of, this is how we got in the weeds. This is what the weeds felt like. Let's revisit that later and see what a potential solution for that weedage is. Right now, we're in the weeds. And so, like, to be nerdy again, Expo, Mater D, those to me are the Tetris video games, right? Like,
Yeah.
where the pace gets bigger, and one false move is the end of the game. But also, one great move can clear a whole stack of problems. So that to me is kind of the beauty of it, and I don't think everybody should play high stakes Tetris with human lives or their food. But for those of us who like it, that's it. And I was just like, cool, guys. When we got to level 48 in Tetris tonight, the shit hit the fan. Can we identify like what block went wrong where? Okay, great. Now tomorrow, let's implement a system that corrects that. And I just like love fixing problems, and I love like systems. I think like a great restaurant should be like a bike. Almost anybody should be able to look at my restaurant or any portion of my restaurant and see no magic. They should be like, well, he's cranking, and that guy is braking, and this guy is dunking, and that guy is keeping the tires inflated. And I feel like at any given time, if you studied it for a half hour, you should be able to see, like, anyone should be able to jump in as a spare tire.
Yeah, the
Like,
mechanics of it, it's almost choreographed, and it has to be. Because, like you were saying, one wrong move or one right move has a cascade effect to it. Like
huge.
every job relies on each other, which is like whenever you said that you kind of started and had a homeopathic sense of training, whenever you kind of got your first shot there in Brooklyn, right? And what a great way to say that, to be self-aware that yes, this job is that and your job is this and that job is that, but notice that not one thing happens without the other. So no jealousy, it doesn't exist here. No what's the word I'm looking for? No envy. Like it's just, you're just a part of the puzzle, so don't worry about this isn't cool or there's no respect for this or that, because there's respect for all of it. Without one thing, it doesn't go well, and then that's
Yeah,
really
it
cool. It
no us them ever in my restaurants, and even us them versus us and customer. No, it's all us. The customer is us. No customer, no money.
Be grateful that you're in the weeds. Like something really good happened to have that
Yes.
number of people in the building to cause you to need to problem solve.
Yes.
Like it's such a good thing. And people do get caught up, and this is just a life lesson too. Like you get caught up when something happens, you're so quick to label it positive or negative. When really at the end of the day, something just happened and leave it at that. And everything can have a positive effect if you leave room for it. If you're prepared and have a certain amount of understanding and acceptance of the fact that, hey, something going wrong isn't a problem. Not being able to fix whatever went wrong is a problem. And not finding the positive side in the fixing could lead to a problem. So just leave the problem part behind and just take whatever it is as it comes without that label,
We're
without saying
hiring,
that
by
this
the
was
way, dump
bad.
truck.
Say
We're
what?
hiring. We're hiring, by the way, dump truck.
I'll be there around August. Do
Okay,
you hire
sounds good.
seasonally?
For you, dude, anything, man.
It's real though, and like that's one of the things that vocations like the service industry, like the restaurant industry, like they keep that very much at the forefront. That is a lesson that affirms itself over and over again. You can either freak the hell out about it, or you can go, all right, what else you got, and just keep figuring it out every single time. Everybody talks about it. That show, The Beast, like, oh my goodness. You talk about losing it whenever you get in the weeds, right? You've got one chef that's trying to be cool as a cucumber and is holding her own emotions back while, the HBIC, he's flipping out. And eventually she can't contain herself either. And it's got that, like, you have an effect on everything around you type deal. Don't look at it as, oh no, look at it as like, oh, who cares? What's next? Like, this happened. Right on. How do we fix it? Okay, next. And
Yeah,
it's cool.
there's something maybe broken in me that allows me to not have the natural reaction to freak out. Like I don't know where the major freak out was in my life that minimized most other freakouts.
Right.
Um, I like to think of it as a gift, but at times people will be like, "Chef, real problems," and I'm like, "It'll be fine. Don't worry. We'll get through it. Hospitality." Words, a nice smile, and they're like, "God damn, chef, like we're on level 99," and like,
It's like, no, you are.
yes, yes, yeah, me, man, shoot, wait, we're playing Tetris? I'm playing Mario. What is this?
And don't play Mario Kart during the restaurant. Like that will destroy things.
It's really true.
It is. It gets dangerous in there.
I'll red shell a line cook any day. Just kidding.
So like currently I feel like you, just because of how much I know about you, like you're in a place to where you don't have a lot of opportunity for boredom. You say you're like kind of on a 5-year cycle from time to time, which I can understand. My life has been pretty wild and full of a lot of sensory overload, but for me is normal. Like
Hmm.
I'm also one that likes to keep moving. When I MC a show or something like that, if someone doesn't have me busy and I'm standing around, I'm not happy about it. Like I'm there to work and I like it. So I'll just send myself on all these little side missions and like create something and like just go off and fill my time in some kind of positive way, because that's like you, my whole goal in life is just to leave whatever room it is better than when I got there.
Bingo bango.
I mean, if I die and people say, hey, shit was better when Dump Truck was around, then I did
Yeah,
it.
we won. Yeah,
Yeah,
great
there's
job.
like 7 people that won't agree, and I don't like them anyway. So, so it doesn't matter.
I'm not one of them.
No, well, thank you. I'm glad. Same team. But like right now you're in a spot to where there's not a lot of room for being bored at all. You've got 2 restaurants, you've got a beautiful family that's expanding, and your involvement on the Food Network seems to be rolling right along. And you've had that relationship for a super long time, 9, 10 years now.
I think we're at 13.
13. No way. I
Yeah,
was watching
I had to think back.
some old footage of you the other day
No,
getting
vintage.
ready for the call.
I've grown and changed a lot since then, dump truck.
The foodie call. I absolutely love that series.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That looked like it was a pet project. Is that, well, like, tell me about that.
Oh man, dude, Foodie Call, it still exists somehow on the internet. I'm surprised Food Network hasn't, sent it to the crematorium. But um, there is none, digitally speaking. Anyway, yeah, they were just like, hey, we think you'd be better on the internet. And I was like, surprise. And they were like, can we just introduce you to some people that make videos, and we'll oversee it. We'll oversee it. And I was like, sure. And so I met these cats, and they're just dope. And they were like Brooklyn people. They were young. They got it. They were like budget schmudget. Like, we don't care. Like fun, food, learning. And that was it. And I was like pretty deeply involved in a lot of the aspects of it. We did have a culinary producer, which is amazing. Her name's Erin Barnhart. She's gone on to like, style the food for the cover of whatever magazine.
That's cool.
And so she was definitely my like mental ping pong person. Also helped me write my first cookbook. And we just kind of like said, "Hey, can we do this?" And Food Network would generally say like, "Here's an ingredient we want to focus on that's like trending, or we think will be trending in 6 weeks when production is done." And we'd just shoot it in my house or my restaurant, and they would just like say, "Okay, Warner, basil," and then I would say, "Cool, well, obviously basil sorbet," and they're like, "What?"
Well,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Yeah, duh, like basil sorbet, like you've never had basil sorbet with like in a caprese?" And they're like, "What?" And then we would just make basil sorbet, but then I would do something really doofy like put scotch in it. But here's the thing, man, if you want to make great sorbet, you should put a little bit of alcohol in it. It helps make a better scoopable, meltable structure.
Does
And
it?
yeah, because alcohol doesn't freeze, right? And the thing about
Right.
sorbet is like great sorbet is not frozen, but not melting.
Right.
And if you think about like the physics of like rock hard sorbet, that's a popsicle. Nobody wants that. But like imagine when you've gotten about 12 licks into a popsicle and the whole thing's really started to warm up. The alcohol, because alcohol doesn't freeze, it like disrupts the we are all one of
Everything,
ice.
really.
Yes, well, yes, yes. So I was just like, I'm putting scotch in there because there's something about it, like the peatiness tastes great with basil, and like it just, damn it, it just works. And so I would like make the recipe in advance and give it to the camera folks, and they're like, the scotch, it sells it, wow. And you can't taste that through TV, and so people just thought I was some wackadoodle, but
I mean, you are.
I am. But I tested it, and I was like, I had a full bar there. I could test any liquor I wanted to. And I think I probably started with tequila, given its like vegetal notes. Um, but the thing is I think the basil sorbet needs also a little bit of base note to it. If you think about peat is, plant matter, carbon, and so it all kind of made sense to me. I don't know why, but this is why they hired me, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, that's what makes it unique and interesting and apparently delicious as hell. And it's always good when you can surprise naysayers, like no matter what you're doing in life. So when someone like gives you one of these and you change everything about their outlook on whatever the subject matter is, it's like,
Yeah, that's probably my favorite professional drug of all time is um, you know having
the
people that are
professional I told you so.
yeah, the professional I told you so. Yeah, I just like I love incredulous people. Like they're my favorite. I like winning those cats over.
It's like, oh, I see you.
Yeah, and changing a human being is so hard, but when you can do it so simply through something as doofy as sorbet, like that's a win. Or
Absolutely, it
and
is.
that's the thing about food, that people are like, oh, that's a gateway food, like people always talk like I'm really big into cheese right now. Well, that's a gateway cheese. Dude, every food you ever eat that you have not eaten before is the potential for a gateway.
And you don't know the other person's path. Like they may have found
100%.
cheese number one way earlier than you did when you found cheese number five. Like, we're all in our own little universe here. Don't get upset because someone has a different experience, even if they are standing next to you. Like, welcome it and be excited that we're not all the same. That would be
Yeah.
boring.
Oh man, that would be the worst, dude. God,
It
more of me,
would.
I'd be so sick.
I could just see you as the star of multiplicity right now.
Was that Keaton?
Classic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Michael Keaton, the real
Gosh.
Batman.
Yeah, yeah. I now I want to see what was he that like very self-referencing movie that he did that got a lot of awards?
Was it Birdman?
Birdman. Yeah, now I want to
Yeah,
see a
that was
Birdman and
dark.
Multiplicity mashup. Multiple. It's called
I,
Birdmen.
I'm gonna need like my therapist like at the on the bat phone, just like ready. Like when that red phone starts ringing, I'm gonna need you to pick up. We're gonna unpack some stuff.
You got it.
So you've had this awesome relationship from what a lot of us have followed your career over the years with food and the Food Network and being a presenter therein. And now you've got this great family unit, and you move out to South Dakota for family, right? And you just keep, speaking of carbon copies, you got, two of your own.
Just one. One
Just
2-year-old.
one? Oh,
Yes.
I saw a photo. I thought there were two babies in it. Maybe they were just partying. I don't know. Happy hour?
It, yeah, it might have been some other baby.
I heard there's more than one out there.
It's true. Yeah, we don't keep him in solitary.
How is it being
He's
a dad? With juggling all the stuff. Like you're in South Dakota, but that's not where you record most of your work. Like, yeah, that's a big juggle. Like, how much do you love that juggle though? You're not bored.
definitely not bored. It it was hard, very very hard. The first 8 months of being a dad was the probably some of the most difficult work of my life.
Yeah.
Mentally, spiritually, socially, physically, all of it. But then around 8 months, he cracked a smile, and I was like, "All right, kid, that's a transaction. I made a funny, you made a smile, and this is how we will continue."
We are now
And
connected.
then from there, it got, and it's still hard, but it gets easier and easier. But gosh, man, the juggle sucks. It never in my life. I just got back from shooting last week, and like
Hmm.
never in my life have I been so. I used to before the kid, I would be in a hotel room for weeks on end, and I would, like drunken Hemingway, curse these four walls, or whatever, my self-created prison. Even the toilet paper is not at workable height, and
But
like
this is the Florida Keys though, so that's not bad.
it's true, it is, yeah. And so, I would just like there was that miserable, but I was so miserable without my family and my kid that I was like, I'm not even paying attention to where the toilet paper is in relation to how I'm seating. I'm not even paying attention to the miserable art on the walls, or the pumped in manufactured smell of the lobby. Nothing will satisfy until, my tiny son's scalp is against my face, enjoy, like,
Here,
not to be
here.
dramatic.
Like I want to throw a party now, like for
Yes,
your triumphant return, because that it
yes,
sounds like it's terrible, but it's also a beautiful thing to even have the emotion, at battle that you have. Like I'm trying to be present, but really where I want to be is this other beautiful place.
yeah. And, I used to lament, back in the day, I'd go do some work and everybody thought I was on TV. So, they must be spoon feeding me caviar, and they're
Yeah,
ready
you're
for your
rich now.
close
You're
up.
on television.
Oh, yeah.
I've been on TV too, buddy. Not with your kind of history, but it's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity. Leave it at that.
Customer service, baby. Go bust them tables.
Back at it. It's always like you go do the, legendary thing on TV and then you come back and it's like, Chef, the grease trap. And, you know,
Like, oh shit, I'm still a person.
yeah, yeah. So you go give forceps birth to a rag that somehow went down the drain. Like, you don't know exactly how that's physically possible, but there's a rag in there. You got
It's
to
like I
get it
had to
out.
remove the grate to get to it, but hey, I like puzzles.
I do like puzzles. But anyway, I used to complain, there's never any hero's welcome, no matter how long I'm at television siege. But now I have a kid. There's always a hero's welcome. Daddy! And
Yeah.
like, man, dude, that feels so great. And, watching something grow and change and formulate and problem solve and freak out and not freak out. Man, it's so grounding. And, Dump truck, for most of my life, I've been rewarded for, quote, knowing something. And it turns out I didn't know shit till I had that kid. Like, I didn't know a damn thing about, like, what this all was about. And so, yeah, man, once I had the kid, man, it was like my eyes opened to just this whole other way to perceive my world. Eternally
Wow.
grateful, obviously.
That's really, really dope. So like what's the hardest part about juggling restaurants, family, and traveling for television?
Everybody's on a very different timeline. So I almost said to my wife, I am moving in a straight line today, meaning I've got stuff to do and I'm doing it. You know,
Yeah.
and we're using the roller. We're not doing trim. You know, like I want to see what color these walls are gonna be. You know, uh, and I get in modes like that where it's just like, I need to cross things off the list, and I don't really care how it gets done. And that's not how children work at all.
Crazy.
Yeah, normally that's not how other people work, and that's also not how my significant other and business partner and like life partner often works. And the people that don't turn that on often rely on me for that. But if when I'm in that mode and they are not, oftentimes it's a little bull in the china shop or chef calm down.
Guilty.
Um, yeah, guilty. I think it's a habit
No, I mean
of
I'm guilty. Like guilty of the same thing. But sometimes I feel like sometimes it's right. So like even today I saw on social media, I can't remember the gentleman's name who's responsible for this post, but he said, let's sit down and talk about rudeness for a minute. There's a certain amount of truth to it, and there's a certain amount of perspective that people need to bring. Like, if you are a direct and assertive communicator, you need to understand that your words have a certain amount of power and they can affect the other people in a certain way. Now, if you're the opposite end of the spectrum, you need to understand also that you need to come prepared for a certain part of that conversation in the middle. Like both of you need to come in the middle. It's not, you can't always be on high alert, and this person can't always be knocking things over. You got to come in the middle and find out where that works.
yeah, flowery yet effective.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah,
love that.
sometimes it's hard, and like a to-do list isn't like first be flowery. First make sure you're hydrated. First, have you eaten enough? No, I gotta cross shit off my list. Um, so that's been very difficult, and it's especially difficult because on TV sets you are rewarded with praise and generally an earlier day. If you are on top of your stuff and you're ready to go and you know what's going to be asked and you're doing it before you're asked. And restaurants are nothing but anticipating a guest's needs. And and also, like, there is a certain aspect of parenting where if you can get a millisecond ahead of your kid,
That's like a year.
dude, the other day, he was playing with a light switch on the steps. We don't play on the steps.
Mm-mm.
We do not, but he was fooling with it. And like, I think I might have been, I had maybe something going on with the phone, but I, I'm not kidding you, dump truck. It was like a millisecond, and I was like falling, and like, fume, like shot out my arm, and like he like laid himself out flat like those cats who stack hot dogs up their arms,
Yeah.
just on my arm, and I was like, buddy, you okay? He's like, Daddy, and I'm like,
That
hey, I
was the
saved you.
best.
He's like, you got me, and I was like, yes, don't ever do it again.
Please don't keep testing that.
Yeah, but that's sort of like it's not precognition, dude. I'm not trying to say I'm a superhero. It's just informed understanding of your surroundings and the people involved in it. Like, that's also a little bit of a drug for me, and it generally is effective, and I can use it in all aspects of life. But when not everybody is doing that or in that zone, and I'm not that way all the time, and sometimes I think people wish maybe I could just turn it on. Um, it can be a little grating, dude. When I'm in like the 48th minute of can you put your clothes on?
Yeah. That's when you learn what real patience is, and like you also may learn that you don't have it.
Yeah.
But you find it.
Um you do find it, and I think that that's also helpful, and it's good to balance, because I think we've all heard of like or seen, a comedic version of the Hollywood dickhead. And I never want to be that guy. I definitely want to have a sense of
You just want to
urgency,
be
but
the
I also
Deadwood
don't.
dickhead.
Yeah, man, that sounds great.
It's got alliteration and everything.
Yeah, the Deadwood dickhead's in town.
Oh, I got such a great mental image of that.
Me too, somehow, and it was anatomically correct.
I mean, you've got a lot of things that you love in your life, and I think that's really dope. And I feel like that's something. I mean, I do too. I have a lot of things that I love in my life, even when things suck. Like I look around and I remind myself that I should be grateful for whatever the thing it is that I'm working through. Um, you have other loves. You have a love for language, and that's
Yeah.
very very apparent. And it's also really intimidating for someone like myself who has a podcast that's so eloquently spoken. It's I speak good, and I'm bringing on one of the top wordsmiths I think that I know, and I know lots of orators. And you have obviously gotten a shovel out at some point and dug into language. Like, tell me about when you picked up on your on the fact that language was something that you loved.
Oh, damn. Well, my dad was a psychologist, and he specialized in a field called psychodrama, which is where you would take certain aspects of the stage and use it to solve your problems. And like this has always baffled me that it was effective. But he would say, "Okay, dump truck, you're gonna play the role of Justin's wife, and Justin, you're you." And I would
Excellent.
say, "Hey, dump truck, I'm going to the store," and you would say,
Cool.
and I would say, "What do you mean, cool?" Like, and so it would be like a way to role play my problems and perhaps find a solution with someone like you who is not invested and doesn't even know my wife, right? And my wife and I are not currently in therapy, but that was just an example. So anyway, like acting, thespian type stuff was always around in my house, and so like, my dad had this like little sculpture of like Hamlet holding the skull,
Yeah.
and it said like, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well." And like the second I could read, I was like, "Daddy, what's this weird, creepy sculpture? Just this little tiny like 5-inch statue." He's like, "Oh, that's Hamlet, man. He's like holding a skull or some shit." That might not even be correct. Doesn't matter. Um, but I always just really enjoyed. He would always quote Shakespearean stuff, and so I always really enjoyed um, the rhythm and the uh, way those quotes would command a room, or would inspire people to think, or would make people think that you were the smartest person in the room.
Right.
Then I
Them
had an
$5
amazing.
words go a long way, man.
Well, yeah, I mean we're gonna get there, Then I had an English teacher, Kathy Thornhill, in 12th grade, and she taught us about diction. Essentially that's word choice. And I got the first paper I did that was like focused on diction was about a boxing match, and all of the words were somehow animalistic. Uh, for example, he gnashed.
Yeah.
Humans don't really gnash. Animals gnash their teeth.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've always really been obsessed with the words that words me, and the subcontext of using the right word at the right time. And I'm not saying it's game, but you can say, "Would y'all like something to drink today? We have Coke products." Or you can go the low road, which is also kind of cool. "Anybody thirsty?" Or you can
That
say,
sounds like something I would say.
"Yeah, but that's cool, right?" Or you can say, "Anyone fancy a carbonated beverage?" You know, Carbonated beverage. Like, I am selling you out of iced tea. I'm selling you out of water. I have pushed you in beer and soda products. And like, I would never say that at a high-end restaurant. We would be like, "Fancy a cocktail?"
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
and then you didn't even know you wanted a cocktail. But so simple. And the word fancy means would you like or do you desire something? But what I'm really saying is, are you fancy?
You
And if you
ready?
don't answer the question yes, silent judgment.
Then
Like,
then a high life you shall have.
A high life you shall have, and I actually would love if somebody ordered a high life in a Michelin restaurant. Anyway, so yeah, I was
I'm on my way.
rewarded. Thanks. I would get rewarded, and people would say, "Well, are you an actor?" And you'd say, "No, this is my career." And when that's how you know as a waiter, especially in high-end restaurants, when they inquire about you, now all of a sudden you're human, and you're a curiosity to them, especially if they're super rich.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're like, look at my little pet giraffe. you know?
Look at my dancing monkey.
Yeah, yeah. And I was always happy to be that, and it benefited, man. I got to hang out with a real rad dude. He got the EGOT. Was the feller who directed the Graduate, and damn it, you can edit this. I always have to look up his name because it's a name that I just confuse
Yeah,
with
look it up.
other directors of things.
I don't just like wrap this up and send it, so I'll look through every moment.
Oh, Mike Nichols. I didn't even have to look it up. It just came to me.
Bam, there
So
it is.
like,
You're a genius.
thanks. Yeah, Mike Nichols, director of The Graduate, receiver of the EGOT. He was in my section one day. They were doing a retrospective of his work at the theater in the museum. He got assigned to me. I read his sheet and bio, and I just gave him the usual. And he was like perplexed. And so then he started requesting me. But the thing was, is every time they showed his work, he would bring another fantastic actor that was in the work. So he would bring in everyone. He brought in Jude Law, my section. He brought in Natalie Portman, my section. He'd bring everyone that was in his work for the entire thing. And then he brought them all in for a massive, hey, we finished it. And I'm not saying that waiting on famous people is great, but it's certainly better than
Well, you get to be a
waiting
part
on
of the
people.
story. It is great, and like
It is.
they're
It is
some of the
great.
greatest storytellers of our time. It's why they're in that position. That's really cool.
Yeah. Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman at the same table? Bro.
Get
Bro,
out of here! Shut up.
yeah,
Like, so what do you do whenever that happens? Like, are you going back to where everybody smokes cigarettes, stares at the wood pile, and freaking out for a minute so you can go in and be normal, or do you look at this and go, huh, "This will be cool"?
No, I'm like, this will be cool, and it's just like, it's game time, just like,
Yeah,
you're not on autopilot, you're course correcting as you go. Um, you're accommodating literally every request because you know just how many tools are in the multi-tool of the restaurant. And like, yeah,
yeah,
there's nobody wants to break out the toothpick from the Leatherman, but if there is one, we're gonna break it out. Like, can we stretch that? Like, I know we don't have a socket set, but can we use those pliers in conjunction with, you know what I mean?
absolutely. Get some
To make
shade
that
tree
shit
action
happen.
going on.
So anyway, that's why words is because why words, damn it, they matter, and words pay. And as somebody who's broke, I have an infinite bank account of words, and they pay.
So I want to lean into kind of like a total side quest.
Yeah.
Um, AI is a thing now, and this is kind of like a regular conversation almost every day with me and someone. And it's not like, "Hey, conspiracy theorists of America, let's talk about AI." It's like, no, friends like you and me having conversations, and being someone who loves the spoken word, being someone who also loves the spoken word and art. Do you see that, using some people using AI for like some of the copywriting and things like that? Do you think that there is a line to where that's okay? And does that kind of hurt your feelings a little bit? Because I'll be honest, it hurts mine some, but I also know that AI is super useful. But
Yeah, like, it's tough. It's tough. You know, somebody was like, "Show me a business plan." So I was like, let me see what AI comes up with for
right,
LOLs.
yeah,
And so it did okay, but it was definitely not like the Justin Warner business plan. I was like, "You robot, you great job of like hitting the facts. Like, what kind of case is that? Like, this is
you
the
can
least
tell. I can still
emotional."
tell. Like
Yeah.
when when something is written by AI, I'd be really surprised if I couldn't tell the difference. Mostly because right now I'm also looking for it in every single text message, email, social media post, and keep naming it. Like I'm totally scrutinizing everything, and I think we should.
Well, yeah, I agree, and I think that there is the charm of human beings is in the fact that we aren't perfect and that we aren't uh by the book, and that we prey on each other's emotions intentionally, and sometimes accidentally we say or do the wrong thing that achieves great results.
Yeah,
um,
right. Yeah.
and like you know, like what are you gonna do? Like here in South Dakota, like can you ever AI like an overly chatty Target checkout person? If you do, I would be impressed, but like that's not based off of maximizing efficiency.
Right. And that's when I like it.
Yeah.
That's when I like it, when it's coming to the data side of things, or looking over whatever kind of program you're trying to run and say, here's a weakness, here's a strength. Like, I like that part of it, because I mean, I'm a man named Dump Truck. I may sound like an expert on stuff, but I isn't.
I isn't either. Hey, you know, helpful tool, but do I think that we should be like there's a
I think
difference
the word's
between like
responsible. I think it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
be
we just have to be
responsible. Don't be
responsible and
lazy.
don't be lazy, and if you are the kind of person that needs that sort of help, okay. But like in my life, especially with cooking, I like to cook something first and consult the internet second. Cook something first and see what the experts do next. Cook something first, find the problem, and then call a human being. Like, I'm self-trained, I'm self-taught, I know how to learn. This is a machine that knows how to learn. We're already capable of that. And it's kind of laziness. It's not ease, it's just simple laziness. It's actually never been easier to learn. We have the whole internet. But now you have a bot that looks at the entire internet and can find the things on the internet faster than you can. So, like, it's the necessary evolution of things. I don't actually think any of it is intelligent at all. I think it's simply, you know, being trained to find the right search results from the internet.
Right.
Great job. Do I think it knows anything about like emotion or dramatic pause or diction
No, it can just
or
analyze, right, and regurgitate.
yeah, and that's cool. Like, you know, I'm just never going to be in love with that. And
Yeah, I don't think I am either. Thanks for taking
I
the
think,
side. Thanks for taking the side quest with me about AI randomly.
of course, I mean, we're artists, man, and like, you know, I do think it's magical that if you can get AI to do exactly what you want it to based on words, I think that's an interesting skill set, right? Like AI requires a prompt.
Right.
So to manipulate AI to get it to do what you want, I think is a skill set.
I could see that for sure. Like, a lot of times it really is about asking the right question. Like, the results are on the other side of a properly asked and a properly formulated inquiry,
Yeah. You remember
instead of
when
just like picking your nose and firing off, like, which it can be a sport, but it's not as effective.
it's true. Do you remember like maybe I don't know, 15 years ago when you would be like a search engine god because you know how to put quotes around something or you'd put a
Yes.
minus, you know, to like discourage those results? You know what I mean? And like
Like,
your parents and like anyone who didn't know would be like, "Oh my gosh." Now everybody knows that, you know, but like that then was the properly articulated question.
yeah. And now it's just like the access is that much faster, so the question has to be that much more intentional, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe we'll learn something from it, probably not.
Well, I'm going to use the word intentional and segue out of this one.
I love it.
So this whole journey with food that you've been on has been pretty epic. And right now, you've got Tournament of Champions season 6. 100%. So is Sabine, my girlfriend. We are both very addicted to that program. You're a big part of that. You bring us lots of joy when we see you on the screen because you truly contribute. If you're trying to explain, especially whenever you talk for a living, and most everyone can talk. So, like, it being an actual vocation that requires training and intention, and rehearsal, like, it doesn't click for everyone. Well, I can talk. It's like, cool. But there's a reason why they hired me to do it and didn't hire you to do it, because there's a skill set, there's an art form, and there's, raw talent in most cases, of the successful. But usually it's about showing up on time. But anyways,
True.
it really is. Show up on time, be easy to work with. Talent comes like third or fourth. But like, so and Tournament of Champions is such a cool production. I mean, you have to love going to work every day, even though those days are crazy long. Days on set are usually no less than 14 to 16 hours a day. They're just from the time you actually get there till the time the cameras go off until the time you get to leave the building. It's a long day, but that has to be such a cool room. I mean, it's a stadium.
Dude, the so my cue, I know both, depending on which side of the kitchen I'm on, I have a different person that cues me.
Sure.
And so I will hear off to the side from, everybody's dressed in set blacks, but I hear the familiar voice say, and I'll be cueing Justin, and action Justin. And it's so quiet because they don't want to show up on the microphones or anything.
Right.
But the crowd is going nuts. The thump 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 of the feet on the stage of the chefs like running to get their stuff. Something's already broken in the pantry. And action Justin. I'm like, man, I got on my boogie shoes and we're gonna do dance. I got my little clipboard, and I hold it like it's my dance partner. I've got my pen out here, and like, it's the closest to being in an anime I will ever be. And like, the wardrobe team dresses me nice. The hair and makeup department makes me look good. The guy asks me questions that I can assuredly answer. The chefs make amazing food because they all want it so bad. There's never any like womp womp turds in a basket.
Right, yeah, you're never bored.
That we've seen on other TV shows. And so when you get that and action Justin, man, dude, I go to a completely different place in my brain that
it's like over the top.
Yeah, it doesn't, no other place pays to go there. And I think around season 2, I was like, you got to start making like a little Tournament of Champions room in your mind, like just a space where you keep this energy and you keep this connection. It's full of portals or windows or whatever to all the other ding dong knowledge you've figured out over the years. And when I like rip open that door and walk into that room in my head, it's kind of like my kid looking at a bouncy castle. Like he has no clue what it is or what today is going to be, but we're going to do some somersaults in that. Yeah. So yeah, Dump Truck, best job of my life. I'm glad that it kind of shows, I think, on camera. But ultimately, the thing about that is that job requires duty, in the sense of, you can't, there's 4 battles a day, and you can't be any less sharp than you ever were. You have to be the sharpest version of yourself every time. You have to also be impartial and neutral and watch someone go down the slide backwards and fall into the mud,
And bite your tongue, right?
Yeah, you have to bite your tongue. And like, this is like kind of the first real season as like a parent of an ambulating person. And so I'm always watching this thing careen towards the edge and say, no, 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 no. It's my reflex now.
Yeah.
And so to turn that off, man, that's like a muscle.
And you have to turn all of it off. It's not just not saying it. Your face can't say it because that's communication. And in a competition where there's $150,000 on the line.
Yeah.
Well,
2 very good salaries.
yeah, extremely. And that's a big responsibility. Like, it takes a lot of focus there, but that's a part of that energy, right? Like, once they say, and go for Justin, yeah. Like, that's a part of what clicks in for you. I mean, because I understand that whenever I get the direction, usually when I give fist bumps to the soundboard before I get on stage, and I'm just like, what's up, homie? My name's Dump Truck. And he goes, oh, I heard it every time. I heard of you. I'm like, well, cool. You're about to have to listen to me for the next 10 hours.
Yeah.
And then whenever I get like one of these, and I've already got the microphone in my hand, that next breath is a big one. And what comes out after that is also big. And it's like, let's go. And
I know I'm not supposed to be asking a ton of questions, but do you go to another place?
I do. I don't even know where it is. I mean, I'll be backstage and I'm just kind of like, it's almost like I'm getting ready for a fight. And I was never a professional fighter. I like wrestled in high school and things like that. But it's very much like that. I'm just like kind of psyching myself up, reminding myself that I can do this, reminding myself that I prepared for this, reminding myself that that is my motherfucking microphone, and I'm about to go make everybody's fucking day better. And like that's really it's intense for me. I mean, I'm feeling it right now. Like it's one of those where I'm about to get hyped because when I jump on that microphone, however many thousands or hundreds or tens of people are out there, they need to be stoked, not for me being on stage, but for what I represent. And I represent the beginning and what is after me you're excited about. And it's like, and as an MC, you remind yourself you're the bow, you're not the gift. So don't spend all day on stage. Your name's not even on the ticket. And to that, like, it's a know your place thing when you're talking about like holistically learning how to live in a restaurant ecosystem. And learning how to live in a restaurant ecosystem is a sense of self-awareness that's huge. And I love my role in those places. I'm not trying to be the band. I'm not trying to be anything other than the guy that stirs the pot and gets you ready for what you're really here for. I'm like, the motorcycle industry / concert festival stage fluffer. Like I'm just really there to give people something to chew on. And it's totally a different place. And it's still very much me, but it's a very different and raw version of myself, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know, like I don't do enough reflection on what it is that I become, but I definitely become it's like like I grow plating or something, like I mutate a little bit, I'm definitely still me.
Yeah.
But you go to that like leveled up limit break, version of yourself, and um, oftentimes people ask, well, what was it like in that episode when that happened? And I'm like, I wasn't there. Like, yes, I was there,
I
and I
bet
was
you I
running
can
my
call you
mouth
on that. What was it
the
like when you
entire
caught the
time.
spoon from Guy in episode 1 of the current season? That was a good
Hey, man.
moment.
Dude, that was a great moment, especially as someone who has absolutely no athleticism whatsoever, dude. To catch that on TV, to prove that I finally caught an object launched at me. We might graduate to a ball next dump truck.
So many flashbacks of me trying to learn how to catch a baseball with my father. Whenever that moment happened, Bean and I were both like, "Yeah!" It was like we were at a sporting event and we're on your team. Like it was awesome.
Thanks,
It's the
man.
little things. Well, you're under a lot of pressure. I mean, you've got cameras all over the place. This is going to be broadcasted internationally. And which do you want to be known for? The guy that can't catch the spoon or the guy that goes, gotcha. Didn't think I was going to do that, did you, guy? And he goes, no, I did not.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
That's just part of the thing is, Guy also I I think he knows that we have a habit of going to other places, so he likes to just be like, "Are you sure you're on Earth?" And like
Yeah.
he'll just throw a spoon into your sphere, and then it's like I'm still in that room in my head, but I like reach my hand through the portal that goes into reality, catch the spoon, and bring it back.
Without breaking stare, just still continuing going on, describing the beautiful plate that is before you, and nothing just happened.
Yeah, man, that's hard drugs, that show.
Yeah, and I can only imagine. I've been on Food Network before, so I get a certain aspect of it. Just by like being in the room, like you're married to it now. Like y'all are a part of each other. I mean, everyone that's a cast member on that show, I feel like is you, Simon, obviously Guy. And you're on. Like you are. The mics are hot. The cameras are flying for 16 hours. Like it's a lot to manage. It can be really intimidating. What was your first experience like on camera, like on big boy camera? Like, was it one of those where you were like, "Oh shit, I thought I was ready for this," or is it like, "Okay, we got this"? Because my first real shot at the title, I froze like a statue, and I realized that I'd gotten myself over my head, and yet again, I didn't respect the offer that was before me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've always been when we went to 4-H in school, they would be like, put Warner in, as the adorable kid who talks about what we learned today on the local news. And
At the ready.
so from like age 6 on, I've just not been afraid of the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Everyone
Um,
else might be, but you're totally good with it.
yeah, yeah, sometimes to a fault.
Fair.
but yeah, I've just never been phobic of plastic and glass boxes. Just doesn't really freak me out. I actually worked a lot with cameras in high school. Like I really wanted to work in video and movies and stuff. So I would like shoot stupid stuff and um,
That helps
you
a
know,
lot. It's not stupid stuff. That is foundation building. Like,
thanks.
so I mean, it is like for anyone that wants to do anything in that type of industry, being TV or film, the more stupid stuff that you film, the better it's going to be whenever you actually take it seriously or you have an
Yeah, the
opportunity.
stupid stuff is just remedial or introductory lessons.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. They're the first things you learn.
so as like a theater kid, it's like if you can get on stage and you can act, I think I can be myself on TV.
Maybe.
Um, yeah, and just like obviously I always want to make sure that I'm presenting the best version of myself, but also the factual version of myself. So and ultimately that's up to an editor. And I think in general, I never get to meet any of the editing folks, right? Like they're just in a bay. They call it the edit bay somewhere. And
Oh yeah,
um,
they're in the basement.
yeah, and at one time I actually did get to stop by and like thank the cats who edit Guys Grocery Games, and they were like,
That's cool.
"Wow!" And you got to make friends with your editor, you got to make friends with your interviewer, and ultimately you got to make friends with the camera. Like, I get cold sores, man, and I've had to shoot a show with a cold sore, man. Nothing more embarrassing than that. But you
Hard to
put
get
the
that out of your
chapstick.
brain too.
It really is, but you just got to do it. You
Yeah. So where do you hope all this goes? Where do you hope the books, which you have three of, right? You have three
yeah.
books that you've written. I have yet to check them out, and they are absolutely on my list. I don't have a whole lot of friends with their own cookbooks out, and that really makes me want to learn about more about you in that way.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
Continue our romance, our bromance. But like, where is there a place where you want it to go, or you just want keep giving me waves to ride, and we'll figure it out as it comes.
Yeah, probably more of the latter. I'm very much like you, and you've said it a few times, but I like to leave life better than I found it, and if that means being considered an essential worker as an entertainment chef, awesome. One time I was passed out on a plane, and I woke up, and there was a little note from the flight attendant that said, "Hey, wild card Warner, like." In the dark times of pandemic, Guys Grocery Games was like one of the things that brought my family together. Thank you for what you do. Well, damn.
Yeah, well, make me cry on a plane, why don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just the altitude.
I'm not
And
crying. You're crying.
I like that, and I like riding the waves. Obviously the main thing is, with my staff here, they're part of the flock. My friends, part of the flock. My family, part of the flock. Fans, part of the flock. And I just want to take care of everybody as best I can. And to it's crazy, like people that watched me 13 years ago at the formative age of 13 are now rapidly approaching 30. They're
Right.
26-year-olds now. They've been drinking, they've been partying, they've been around the world, and they still have a soft spot, and will say, "Wow, like I watched you when I was a kid," and like I know that's a compliment
Yeah. But I
somewhere.
didn't understand it till now.
But I just want to keep being a hero for people who want me to be a hero, and I want to keep making interesting food for interested people, and I hope the more I do that, the more people stay interested. I think lately the thing I've been batting around is like a not a school, but more of a school of thought of it's not nuts. Anything that we think about is not nuts if we have a little bit of explanation to it. And I always say, if you really want to get to know something, keep asking why. You're either going to end up with God or science, your choice.
Just spelled different.
Yep, pretty much. And so it's not, and you've probably met this in your life where people just give up and they stop asking why does it work that way? Why are things this way? Why are things that way? And for me with food, I think people are like banana, but they don't ask why. They're like too brown or too green, banana. But they're not like, wait, are there more than one type of banana?
They're not like banana or plantain.
What? And like just something as simple as banana that you can get at a convenience store. has a podcast around it. Everything has a podcast around it, or
Everything
could,
does.
or
There's
should.
room.
Yeah, and like, God, I was playing a video game the other day, and it had this weird banana card. It's a card game, and the card was called Cavendish, and I'm like, they listen to a podcast on banana. That's a species of banana. You're speaking my language, like,
I'm in. How
yeah,
much
and
is that
like,
next download? I'm here for it.
right, and so why is if a banana is called Cavendish, why is also a style of tobacco called Cavendish?
Yeah,
Now
why
we
is
have
that?
multiple questions bringing multiple things together, and I don't know the answer to that, but now I know what I'm going to do when I'm off the horn with you.
I will be looking forward to finding out what you discover. If you don't mind, please call the hotline and leave a voicemail with what you find out about that.
I'll Cavendish it, I promise.
I love it. Actually, I have got a hotline phone call for you. Oh yeah, it should be pretty great. If it's not, well, it's your fault.
Got
Let's
it.
see here. Make sure we can hear this. I've got my soundboard in front of me, so I'm hitting my faders with my toes.
I like it.
Yeah, well, it turns out I've got opposable toes. Let's
Nice.
see here.
Hello, baby. It's Bean. And what's up, Justin? I'm so excited that you're on the show, man. I'm really excited to hear about how weird this gets, and I can't wait to listen. I also have a question for you, and I want to know, like, what's going on with the hair, brother? Like, it looks like you've been partying in the back a lot lately.
Oh, yeah. Business up front.
Were you just like standing in a fishing hole for too long and it grew that way? Like, tell me the story. I want to know. Because, like, I mean, your hair has always been like a thing, but what's the future for these locks? Where's it going? What's the evolution? I'm on the edge of my fucking seat over here. All right. I love you, boys. Have a great talk.
Wow.
That is Sabine. And it just came up in conversation the other day. I was like, well, if you want to know, babe, call the show. And it's like, I mean, it's super relevant. I think because, I mean, over the years, I mean, you sir could grow some hair. Like you got some locks in it. For a guy that's covered in it, I don't give that compliment away freely. And you look at your early days, it's like this. It's majestically cartoonish. Like that typically is a negative thing. This is not. It like your pompadour came out in a way to where
It's like straight Jimmy Neutron.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what. So that's the inspiration of it, or that's just an aha moment you had to realize it. I don't know, but it worked. But then you go down your timeline, and the party that's in the front has started to move to the back, and almost the same length, and it's super impressive. So yeah, I mean, tell us about the hair. Is it something that you have evolved with intentionally? Has it been by design? We want to know everything.
Thanks. Oh my. Okay, well, the origin story of the hair is I used to have just like a regular old Supercuts haircut until I was
Right.
about 19 or 20, maybe 21. And I went through a pretty bad breakup, and I went to this Turkish salon, and they threaded my eyebrows and gave me a hot towel and sold me very expensive hair care products and showed me how to use it. And, it was this like, oh, honey, I'm going to set you up right, sort of moment where,
It's like comfort food, but it's a haircut.
yeah. And like they said like words of affirmation. I'm a big fan. They were like, you have great hair. Who's been doing this to you? And I was like, I know I have great hair, and I didn't, but I know I'm a great person, and people have been doing things to me, damn it. And,
Stop them.
then from there, I just was like, this is a way that I can express myself, and as long as it's within, the confines of whatever restaurant's handbook I'm working for, we can do it. And when you're wearing a suit or a uniform for a living, you probably understand that like there are only so many things that you can do to say, well, I'm not just a suit and a uniform. Like, can't you tell by the weird glasses, or like, can't you tell by my beard that I, don't do a certain line of work? You know what I mean?
do. I absolutely do.
Yeah,
Like, we all want to be uniquely ourselves, even if to an extent we do have to conform. Like, I
yes,
was in the Navy. Like, so
yeah,
fortunately in the Navy, you can have sideburns, and that would be one of the things that some people would choose to have, so they didn't look like every other branch of the military that had no sideburns. That was like the one thing that made us a little bit different from everyone else. I totally get it.
yeah. And so like I kind of rocked that pomp look for most of my adult life, but then I would get in these hair and makeup trailers, and my hair would be long enough that they could do something with it, and they'd be like, "Do you want to do something with it?" And I would say like, "If it
Yes.
involves you touching my hair, sure." I tend to be very like I enjoy a haircut. I enjoy like the scalp part of a massage. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's just like I don't know, if you use your brain, like you can't really. That's like the closest you're gonna get to like a gas relief valve.
Yeah.
And so they would mess around with it, and then I would mess around with it, and then I got a really great stylist here in Rapid City that I trust completely. I think she understands me and understands that she holds the key to the future perception of my being. And I just like let her have at it. And we had kind of talked. We'd watched this show called oh man, it was on HBO. It was in the future, something about wolves. Um, it was about these robots and these religious people fighting each other. I want to say it was like a Ridley Scott thing, man. But they
I
had
have no
space
idea.
mullets.
I'm not
Raised by
familiar.
Wolves, it was called. Raised by
Oh, okay.
Wolves. So
I've
they had
never
these
looked at it.
space mullets where they were definitely mullets, but they were not like there was no hairspray in the front. There was no Billy Ray-ish mullet
Right.
to them. These were obviously mullets by Celestial Design. Although some might argue that about Billy Ray's too.
I'm just saying that is one hell of a Kentucky waterfall.
And so, um, I can change my hair, and it's part of the brand now that I can do that, and I find that to be liberating. And right now, I have a pretty straight. It's ugly and messy because I've been in work mode today, but right now I have a pretty straightforward cut, pretty tight on the sides. You'll see it in an episode of Grocery Games in the near future. And I just kind of like to keep people guessing, and I like it to be part of the character that I am. And I also think that men deserve the ability to change their hairstyle whenever they want.
I like
Crazy,
that.
I know.
I used to spend hours in the salon, right? Like this is before I stopped cutting my hair. So
Mm,
like doing the concert festival emceeing, and this is before motorcycle stuff because Harley Davidson, who I worked for, is like a family conservative-ish company. So like you can't be running around with a mohawk that is like 8 different colors, which I totally had. Like my hairstylist Andy at the time, she would paint colors in specific places and carve everything out with shears. So I'd be sitting there like all day, and which isn't terrible. Like it's a totally awesome thing, and it became part of my shtick, and it actually kind of became part of the thing of like where I go before like the on switch hits. Like it was all a part of it. Like I'm into this mode. This is the part of me that I'm nurturing right now. Everyone's going to see this one of my faces, and it's going to be this one specific one, and it's crazy and a good time and somehow still a professional. And like even when I started with Harley Davidson, I had a pompadour, super high and tight, really tall, and I had a hot pink streak through it. And they were
dude.
nervous about that hot pink streak. And then I was like, "Hey, welcome to Harley Davidson." They're like, "Oh, never mind, it's fine." Like, and I think you're right. I think you should be allowed to do more than go to the same barber you go to your whole life. And but to that experience, having a relationship with a barber like that for a super long period of time is it's magical. It is like going to sit down at your favorite restaurant where everybody knows you, or your favorite bar where everybody knows you. Like you sit down, the bubble gum is terrible on the counter, but you're gonna chew it on the way out anyways. And it's just a really cool experience. I love changing my hair all the time. Now I don't do nothing. I just sit here.
Well, you look great doing it, dump truck.
Well, it is the lighting. I actually get one haircut a year, and it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it'll be this weekend. I have it during the Mama Tried show, which is a really amazing custom chopper show there, and yeah, so that's it. Like so, whenever I get there on Friday, I think, is when she sets up. The show doesn't even start till Saturday, but like she's like the first place I go. She's like, "Dump truck, you ready for your annual?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." Clean up all the stuff, do my undercut, clip some things out that don't need to be there, and I just let her do whatever. And I walk away going, "Cool, I'm halfway respectable now."
Yeah, I mean that is magical, and I think we would be benefited as males or those identifying as males to um just give somebody else the keys every now and damn then. We're
Yeah.
so damn guarded and so in control, and
Must conform. Must
yeah.
conform. It's like, you see the parents that have their kids that are like a little bit feral, for lack of a better word, which I just think it's a
Hmm.
great word. But like, they've got the wild hair and stuff. That doesn't have to necessarily stop for everyone. I mean, you might have to clean it up from time to time, but you can still stay uniquely you. And I think especially in today's day and age where you have more suit and ties that have longer hair and beards and all that kind of stuff, you just gotta, shower from time to time. Like that is a requirement. I heard about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at our local grocery store the other day, and there were a couple folks around the checkout, and I don't think that was a requirement to enter the building that day. And I was just like, man, am I old or simply hygienic? You morons! Like, what is this? Like that's it. Like I, I can't imagine being so busy to bag groceries, and I'm not shitting on that. Like that's a viable job, but I can't imagine being like, yeah, just forgot basic hygiene in this
Yeah.
food service job. That's just one place where I just draw the line.
Yeah, that is a thing. Like, and it just leans to the fact that you should always respect how you affect the world around you. And there's also a certain amount of I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. That's okay as well. But that's not one of them. Like, wash that ass, y'all. Like, there's other people out here having to experience your sensory overloading aura. That's a
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, just one too many vacant subway cars in New York. You're like, oh, I've got the whole car to my, and you're
It's like
like,
not happening.
no, yeah, you like. I feel like you have to have that trial by fire to know that like any manner of is like a dark path.
Well, I feel like we have covered a lot of bases. I've got a massive notepad that's like 3 feet tall on the other side of this camera, and I keep seeing everything, and we've hit it all, and I feel really great about it. And I just want to say thank you, like very much for your time, Justin. You're a really busy guy. I respect you very much. Whenever like you offered to be here, I didn't even ask, and I've that like felt really good. So thank you very much for wanting to be a part of this journey with me and for being my friend and
Oh yeah.
for this very insightful conversation. I have enjoyed so much of it. I try to keep these things to about an hour or so, and it can be really hard. I'm finding out to kind of reel it in sometimes, but that's why we're just gonna have to have you on again later.
Reckon
Um,
so.
so
Speaking of
since we're
reeling
gonna
it in, we didn't even talk about fly fishing. That'll
well,
be
let's
part
let's
two.
talk about your passion for fly fishing. Is that before we leave? Let's talk about that. I mean, it's become a big part of your piece, a big part of your enjoyment being in South Dakota. Is that where it kind of started, or did you have younger memories
Yeah.
that have been nurtured there?
Nah, 100%. I got drunk and there was like a targeted Instagram ad that knew me too well. And it was like, Japanese telescopic fly rod. And I was like, I'm doing
There's
that.
so many of my favorite words. I want one.
Yeah, like, well, minimal, like utilitarian, easy to use. And so I bought it, and then I got this thing, and I didn't know how to tie the knot, and like the instructions were not great. Go figure, because it was an
Right.
internet targeted ad. So I just typed in the name of the rod. It's called a Tenkara style rod, Rapid City, and lo and behold, in our town we have probably, I would say, I've never been to a better fly fishing store, guide, outfitter shop, and I've been all over. I try to go to every one every time I travel. I've never been to a better one. I think they're probably in the top three in terms of retailers on the internet.
Wow.
Like I could walk there,
That's
and so
awesome.
sure,
That's a
yeah,
resource.
it, yeah, and so like sure enough, they know how to use your drunkenly purchased Japanese telescopic fly rod.
Turns out there's a whole job position for people like you.
Yes, And so I booked a trip, and then I found out it was for two, and then I found out Brooke was pregnant with our kid. So I called up our aforementioned buddy Alex Massa as just like a guy I knew who seemed like he could get wet, and boy does he. And
You love
I was
buddy.
like, hey man, like my wife, we don't really want her going in the creek. She slipped and fall, whatever. You want to come? He's like, yeah, dude. And so we did it, and we caught fish, and we both kind of got addicted, and then like the rest is history. And both he and I have had this sort of like epic journey that like, neither one of us really had the gear or the ability to get out often, but we were thinking about it so much that we would like email each other in the middle of the night being like, yes, but if we add this weight here and blah 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 here, and with this CFS of the being released by the US Bureau of Reclamation, and like we just nerded out about it together. And then I bought a book called Trout and Their Food, and then I realized like a new customer. Like,
Oh, wow. What a cool perspective.
yeah, and so like studying the mannerisms, it's the same shit I do in the office. I just do it in nature with none of the office.
Oh, wow.
And
That sounds dreamlike.
it, gosh, right? Like, imagine if you could record a podcast with no guests, and like no audio and no. It would just be
Podcast.
talking to yourself.
Oh, I
Isn't
do
that
that
wonderful?
already.
I know, and it's
And I
probably
do
the best
love
time
it.
of your day,
I
right?
love it. I'm usually twisting the throttle. I need to join you and throw a bait in the water. I'm gonna have to learn how to cast like that, though. I don't know anything
No,
about
you
fly
don't have to
fishing.
learn anything, dude. Not the way we do it, man. We're so Alex and I, because we're like relatively self-taught and tend to be screw it, let's try it sort of people. We started a little fly fishing collective with two members and only two members called Fish Ass, um, and our logo is an
Enough fish
aquatic.
don't have ass. Is
It's true. They do have an anal fin though. That's what
ta-da.
they call it. There's no better name.
I don't think
And
so. I
so
wish I had one still.
you can find us on Instagram at aquatic.donkey. And
I love that this is real.
yeah, and our logo, we fought. It was kind of our first real friendship fight. Was do we want a terrestrial fish as our logo or an aquatic donkey? And I
These
said,
are real choices here.
yeah. So we like went to the designer and we're like, listen, we don't care about how lo-fi this is, but this needs to convey the idea of an aquatic donkey. This is a quadruped, that can
Swim
breathe
like a fish.
underwater and has fish-like tendencies, but this is absolutely not a fish on land.
I think it's genius. Your graphic designer is either the luckiest or most tortured graphic designer out there.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you're dealing with a client like us that all we said was, please make a four-legged fish, and then they sent back something. I was like, aren't donkeys fatter? And they were like, cool, and they like used the tool to move the line down. Sure, they call that the potbelly tool.
That's what happened to me. I've
Yeah,
been
me
trying
too.
to fix that for so long, but there's no undo on edit for that.
No, there's not. Can't control Z that shit. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's fly fishing for you. So when you come out next time, we'll get you outfitted and get you on. We'll try and get you the big three. That's a brook trout, a brown trout, and a rainbow trout.
I love it. Well, whenever we come out there for Sturgis, typically I've got the camper and stuff with, so we can figure out a good place for us just to set up camp for a few days after the rally, and try to bump up. Then I think I'll be a solo act this year at Sturgis. So those years when I'm not committed to MC a bunch of shows and stuff like that, I very much just kind of do Sturgis. Like I kind of hide, don't put myself out there too much, hang out in Deadwood a lot.
Yeah.
Deadwood's so dope.
Yeah.
But they would be really, really cool to get to fish together. That would bring me great joy, sir.
You
It
just
would
watch,
make
man.
my heart the second most swollen organ on my body currently.
We put a fish in your hands, dump truck, and the way we do it, man, and the fight you feel on that thing, your face is gonna hurt. You'll be grinning. You'll be looking at that photo. You'll be like, some bad thing will be happening, and then you'll type fish in the gallery search box, and that thing will pop up, and you'll be like, times were good once.
Bro, you love it so much. I love that so much for you. It's such a I grew up fishing. My dad was like a competitive BASS angler in the 80s and late 70s and stuff. So when he wasn't working on the oil rigs, we were living down in South Louisiana at this point, when he wasn't working on the rigs, he was fishing, either practicing for a tournament or competing. So like we grew up fishing my whole life, but river fish, I know nothing about those beautiful bony wonders. And the fight's supposed to be great, like kind of no matter what size they are.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes even the little ones, like they haven't learned enough, and so like a big fish will just be like, I ate it, I'm hooked. The little ones are like, no, get me off here, get me off here, get me off of here. And so like, I think evolutionarily speaking is like, if you, if like a predator, like a heron or an osprey or something, were to swoop down into the water, it's the little fish that are up top that haven't learned about predators, right? But also like leaping out of the water is only exposing themselves for a second strike.
Yeah.
So that's a dumb fish maneuver, you know? A
And those are
smart
your kind
fish
of
that's
fish.
yeah, a smart fish is going to be like, "Nah, you just snagged a log." You know?
Like, good
Nothing to
job.
see here.
It's
Yeah, cool.
similar with
Cut it.
bass. It's similar with bass. When you feel them like hit and walk with it a little bit, you need to jerk a nut in that thing before, otherwise you're going to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah, well said.
That's super stoked. I'm excited. I'm excited to
Me
go
too.
fishing, man.
Me too.
Well, dude, thank you so much. Like, for real, this has been an absolute joy. This is what I want. I've wanted my podcast to be. I wanted this show to be something that I truly enjoy doing. And I love nothing more than intentionally setting time aside for the people in my life. And you have to, especially whenever you're an entrepreneur on a bunch of different levels, and I can only imagine as a parent, you have to do these things with intention. You have to schedule your time off. You have to schedule your time with the homies. You got to schedule your time with your partner. You know, the kid gets time whenever he needs it. Yeah, that runs the universe. And so thanks. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I mean, we've been at it for a while actually. So I'm excited to hear how this comes out. I hope people are still into it. It's been going really well so far. And if this fails, I'm going to blame you.
Hell yeah. Well, let me know how to hype it, man.
I absolutely will. So, what do you have coming up next? How can we find you? To give us the whole rundown before we close you out.
A Tournament of Champions every Sunday on Food Network. I'll be there.
Watch it. Watch it. It's so good.
Yeah.
So
You can
good.
also get caught up on previous seasons on Max, but honestly, the beauty of that show is you can pick it up anywhere in the bracket, and it will tell you a little bit of what you missed, but also all of what you have to look forward to.
Yeah, and I've definitely grasped onto a lot of the regular characters that are in that show. Just watch it, people. We're about to go on another podcast episode. Tournament of Champions on the Food Network. My man Justin Warner, the chef with the biggest words. Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Dump Truck, my pleasure, man.
All right, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Justin Warner is the man, one of my favorite people, and I'm really, really stoked for his success and excited to watch him continue to grow and get to grow with him and to go fishing. But we're going to get to these hotline calls. I've been excited about them. I want to say again, thank you to everyone who has called to be a part of this show. Without you, this would be really boring, and this is like one of my favorite parts. It gives me these little moments of joy throughout the weeks as I get these new phone calls that come in, and it's a lot of fun. So let's see what we've got in store here today.
Hey, Dump Truck, it's your boy Wolfie. Just a curious little, maybe a discussion piece to a question. Is there really a big debate between sports bikes and regular motorcycles?
Oh my God, yes.
Harley riders versus Suzuki, whatever. I'm just curious. My oldest daughter is really wants a sports bike. I kind of blame you. No, just kidding. No,
I'll
she
take
really
it.
wants a motorcycle, but we got a long road for that.
So let's dive into that. So the way that we kind of talk about that, or the way I kind of talk about it, is the fact that times are changing. In recent past and much farther before, there's definitely a rift between sport bike riders and like cruiser riders or Harley riders specifically. And there's always been like a thumb in the air given at each other because they're different and they ride differently, so they don't really mix well. Like nowadays, you have the stunt motorcycle community within Harley Davidsons, and they're doing the wheelies and the burnouts and the donuts and all that stuff that the sport bike scene is really known for doing. Harley's has typically been either like racing or doing some burnouts, and like that's kind of where that stopped. But you've had a lot of sport bike people like get very interested in these horsepower torque monsters known as Harley Davidsons. So the line's a little blurred now, and the way I feel about it is, um, who cares? Ride what you want to ride. The first bikes that I fell in love with were sport bikes, and that was the first kind of bike that I owned. And I'm really glad that I had that experience with it. Nowadays, that's a very specific machine for me. I would love to have another one, but I would utilize that whenever it's more track conditions, like going on the tail of the dragon here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or something like that that required a really active response from a machine. Like I'm really trying to get after it. And that being said, Harley Davidsons and other American V twin brands have very much graduated to another level of performance to where you can get the best of both of those worlds. As far as like getting a carve up through the canyons and things like that. But what you'll never get out of a sport bike is a comfortable ride for 500 plus miles a day. Yes, you can do it. Absolutely, you can. That doesn't mean you're gonna like it. Now, that just depends on what kind of riding a person wants to do, right? So, this is my advice on the subject to anyone who is not yet riding, new to riding, thinking about riding, anything where you're not a rider yet. Is number one, go take your safety course. Um, and that's a really important step. Step one is buy a helmet, put it by your front door. You don't have to put motorcycle helmets away. Woo. You don't have to put motorcycle helmets away because they're cool. So you don't have to hide them. Just leave it there. And it reminds you that you just spent 300 some odd dollars on a helmet that you don't have a license to use yet, or a motorcycle for that matter. So you have something to wear when you take your class, and doesn't smell like someone else. It's not a rental. You don't want to borrow someone else's helmet. You don't know these people. There's like hundreds of people that have worn that used helmet. So buy a helmet, put it by the door, and then that's going to be your reminder to schedule your class. Schedule your class, pay attention, get your license after that safety class. And then there are programs out there that allow you short-term rental on all sorts of bikes. The app that I'm most familiar with are apps like Turo. I believe Twisted Throttle is one of them. There's Rideshare, and you can pick. Like she doesn't know what kind of bike she wants yet. Like she thinks she does, but until you ride, like you never know. And she may want a sport bike. She'll have like through this little line of thinking, it gives yourself an opportunity to not listen to other people's opinions and ride a sport bike one day, ride a Triumph Cafe Racer another day, ride a Harley Sportster or Dyna another day. You know, switch it up before you actually make that purchase. And that's the best way to find out what kind of motorcycle you want to ride. And yeah, so don't worry about the noise. Everybody's always going to make some. Just do you in all things. Buy a helmet, take your class, rent several different, completely different motorcycles, and then you'll actually know what kind of motorcycle you want to ride. And if she needs any information, you already know how to get a hold of me, homie. I will introduce her to influencers that ride the type of motorcycle she wants to ride so that she can kind of get inspired. I'll do whatever I can. Colorado is a great place to learn how to ride a motorcycle, so that's a big advantage there. And if she can ride in the dirt at all, and it is her first bike, that will definitely help her experience later on. The best riders start in the dirt. I feel like that's almost a rule and a fact. So there you go. Awesome question. Thanks, Wolfie. Please keep calling in and contributing. And it's good to hear your voice, buddy. Who's next?
Yo, Dump Truck, it's Evan from RM Stater. I ran into you at AIM Expo again last week and had a great time seeing you. So, man, just checked out the show. It's killer. I'm loving it, and I'll definitely be tuning in. I'd love to join you and talk about motorcycles, electronics, charging, ignition systems, all that cool stuff. If you're down, and otherwise, I'll be watching the show and tuning in. It's pretty rad, so keep it rolling, man, and talk to you soon. Later.
Really cool. Thank you for calling. We actually ran into each other 2 years ago at AIM Expo, and I was just in Vegas, and so we saw each other there. And if you're a rider, like charging issues are like the most demoralizing and frequent during the summertime. Like when your system gets hot, that's when you can tend to have electrical issues. And I'm interested. So at some point here in the future, we'll have some kind of a technical episode and we'll have RM Stater on here. We can talk about charging systems in general, and I'm sure that's a really deep rabbit hole we can go down, and I'll make sure that people know it's coming so that we can get you guys to call in with your questions, and we can have him answer them. Maybe we even do a live call session for some of these technical things. I have the capabilities to take live calls during the show. We'll see how things turn out, but I'm definitely here for the conversation. Thank you so much for reaching out, and I'll shoot you an email here soon, man. Thanks so much. All right, next on the list, let's see. Oh yeah, here's a blast from the past. I heard this one earlier.
Hey, it's Travis McMaster from Phoenix. Hey, dude, shout out to Curtis Morgan, man.
Curtis is the man.
You know, Iron Butt Association been around a long time, but he took it to the next level. I did the first 10 years of that, and fell asleep in Dallas at about 2 a.m. I was going, I was going 75, 80, and woke up going 40. Anyways, brother, I hope you're doing well. I'll shoot you a text of a picture of me, and we'll connect up. Good luck on the podcast.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Good to hear from you. It's been a few years. And talking about Ride 1K in a Day, my homie Curtis Morgan started this program literally to inspire people to get out and ride their motorcycles, to smash some serious miles and make some serious memories with your friends. And he's been doing it for a while, and it's a lot of fun. It's very serious, similar to the Iron Butt Challenge, to where you keep your gas receipts. Oh, doggy. To where you keep your gas receipts and document your travel so you can see that you rode 1,000 miles in 24 hours or less. And it sounds like homie woke up in the middle of his trip. Maybe knocked cruise control out. I'm glad you stayed awake. For me, that trip I've done before, and it's about 15 and a half hours in that neighborhood if you're getting after it. And that was on my 89 Sportster, 4-speed. Yeah, that was dedication. Really cool program. If you want to get inspired to ride and you get some accolades for it at the end of the year, he's got a bunch of sponsors that give away big gift prizes and packs and all that kind of stuff just for riding your motorcycle and telling other people about it in an effort to inspire more of the same. Pretty damn rad. 100% here for it. And I believe this is the last call we've got for tonight. Thanks for sticking around, everybody.
I really thought you would answer when you saw my number calling. But hey, what's up, guys? This is Dump Truck.
Oh, boy.
I'm Matt Stout. Drunk truck. I'm drunk driving a truck. It's Valentine's Day, and we love dump trucks. Yo, dude, it's Matt and Katie. We miss you so much. We're getting ready for Mama Tried. It's coming up in a couple days, 2, 3, half a week, a little bit more than a week. We got to leave on Tuesday. We miss you so much. Proud of you. Keep killing it. We're due for another sleepover. Later. Call me back.
I will. That is Matt and Katie Stout. They are of Stout Boonies. Hi, Ponyo. My doggy wants me to stop talking in the podcast, which I'm okay with. But they are family members at this point. Big sponsors and supporters of Mama Tried Show. So definitely going to get to hang out with them this weekend, which never sucks. As you can hear, they are a good time. And they're definitely going to be part of the problem, I feel like, in this next few days here. Like, hi, Ponyo. She said, Dad, love me. I think that's a sign, y'all. I think it's time for me to close out the show. Ponyo demands it, and it's been a really great one. I hope you guys are enjoying the journey, and thanks for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe, share. Please share, especially in the early days. I would really love the success of the show to continue and keep the quality of guests high and keep, 2 of these coming out every single month. Appreciate everything that you guys do out there. And if you're not having a great day, don't worry. There's still time. Work it out, Joe. This has been the I Speak Good podcast. Yeah. Good dog.